Now, you may have seen an interesting story on the news this week. On Saturday, there was an emergency just off Beachy Head in East Sussex. Basically, a glider ditched into the sea, and the two occupants of the glider had to be rescued and winched by the Coastguard helicopter back to safety. Thankfully, no one was hurt. Now, the reason why the emergency services got to them so quickly was because of this man here. Gary Ramsdale is a Red Hill-based pilot. He flies this TB10, and you were just on a little Saturday bimble, I understand, and got caught up in this little emergency.
I did, yes. We were just out for a Saturday morning flight with my sister and brother-in-law, cruising around the southeast of England, going around Beachy Head because it's quite a nice view. And as we came around the corner of Beachy Head, we spotted a glider very low over the top of Beachy Head, which aroused our curiosity. We seemed very low to be just sightseeing, and my sister and brother-in-law watched him while I was flying the aircraft, and he dipped below the cliff, and then suddenly my brother-in-law exclaimed, "He's ditched in the sea." So I did a 180, turned round and relocated him in the water.
You didn't see any signs of life for quite some time, did you, after it had ditched?
No.
Which must have been quite worrying, I would have thought.
Yeah. We didn't know what had happened. We didn't know if they'd been incapacitated on the landing. The seas were quite rough. Although it was a controlled ditching, you just don't know.
So how did it go down? I mean, did it stall? Did it look like they ditched it in the way that we are trained to do? Did it crash? Did it break up? What happened?
No, it was a controlled landing on the water. I guess the pilot had realised he'd run out of lift, and that was the safest option. It was a slightly onshore wind, or quite a strong onshore wind, so I'm guessing he just didn't want to risk clipping the cliff.
And basically he ended up being washed back to shore.
Yes.
The current pushed him back to shore, and that's when you saw the two people emerge.
Yeah, about 15 minutes after it went down, we then saw two people on the beach, and obviously that was a great relief to see that they seemed uninjured.
So what did you do?
First of all, I was on a listening watch with Farnborough East, so my initial reaction was just to call them up and report what I'd seen. And the radar controller came back and asked me to call D&D, distress and diversion, on 121.5. So I called them up and again reported what I'd seen, and they then requested if I was happy to stay on position. And then they asked me to squawk ident to locate where I was, and then again asked if I would observe and relay any new news back to them so they could coordinate with SAR, search and rescue.
So were they keeping you updated on the launching of the emergency services, or once you'd passed that call, was that it?
No, they kept me informed. Every orbit that I did, I then reported back what I was seeing. So the glider was being washed ashore. The waves were pretty strong, and then they then told me that the Coast Guard helicopter had been launched, and they also told me that a lifeboat was on its way.
It must have seemed like an age.
It did, yeah.
Do you remember how many orbits you did?
No. Funnily enough, when I looked back on the Sky Demon track, it was a perfect circle over. I was quite impressed with myself. But it must have been 20 minutes, 25 minutes we were on station.
And the length of time from the glider going down to the point of you actually seeing signs of life. I mean, they didn't come out of the cockpit until they'd been washed up back on the shore.
Yeah, that was my impression of what happened. About the second to last orbit that I did, we then saw someone on the beach. Can't be absolutely sure when they got out, but I don't think they waded or swam ashore. The glider was now beached on the rocks.
Did they acknowledge you?
Not that I saw, no.
And how did they look? Could you see from your height? How high were you?
I was between 1,500 and 2,000 feet above.
So difficult.
Yeah, it was difficult to see actual expressions or anything. The one thing D&D kept repeating to me was remain outside controlled airspace and maintain separation with the ground. which was good advice because it's very tempting when you're trying to watch someone at sea level to get lower and lower.
Although a strange thing to hear, remain outside controlled airspace.
Yes, it was a bit,
I think the basic controlled airspace is about 5,000 feet.
5,500, yeah.
But I mean, I suppose that shows an awareness on their part that, not for you not to make yourself another emergency by concentrating so hard on what's going on the ground. Did you find it hard to do that, or was that okay?
No, I was very aware of the height.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And it was good practice on doing turns.
Yeah. You've got a PPL, have you, or a CPL? What's your
PPL?
You're a PPL. And how many hours do you have now?
Just over 600.
So very experienced. And have you had to do anything like this before?
No, first time.
Yeah. I mean, it's what we're trained to do. I mean, it's perhaps a bit sooner in my memory when I did my RT exam and reading up on RT. There is that relay Mayday that you're supposed to have to do. You didn't declare Mayday, and that's no criticism of you.
No, I didn't. It didn't occur to me that it was. I suppose my impression of a Mayday was if I was in trouble.
Yeah.
So the fact that it was someone else didn't occur to me to call a Mayday.
Well, it doesn't matter because, in plain language you explain what was going
on.
And there's no doubt, is there, that was an emergency. And I understand you've received some appreciation from the Maritime Coastguard Agency.
I did, yes. Probably wasn't necessary, but I think anyone else would have done the same. But it's nice to be appreciated.
I mean, you inevitably certainly helped speed up the recovery. I understand there was a 999 call from the cliff, but the location was imprecise.
Yeah.
Your role was to keep an eye on the emergency scene and to precisely locate the casualties.
Exactly, yeah.
They weren't injured, thankfully, although I'm sure they were very shaken up. And of course, there was a limit to how long you could stay there. I mean, you say you were orbiting 15-20 minutes.
Exactly, yeah.
But you were at the end of your sortie. You were at the furthest point of your sortie, presumably, when you were.
Oh, yeah, I was heading back towards Red Hill. Yeah, I'd only fueled up enough for about 2 hours flying. I was only really intending to be out an hour or so. So, yeah, I had to break off when I got down to about quarter tanks. So.
You had 2 passengers, your sister and brother-in-law?
That's right, yeah.
And how did they find it all?
They a bit of an adventure. They were really pleased to be part of the coordinated rescue. Very proud to be up there with me.
You've been widely congratulated for what you did and for your airmanship that day, so congratulations to you for that. On behalf of all the GA community, well done for doing the right thing that day.
Thank you.
Gary, well done.
Thank you. It was my pleasure, yeah.